We initiate the deconstruction of financial hesitation by acknowledging that the money shame you feel when naming a high price is not a moral compass but a biological parasite installed by a society that benefits from your self-imposed ceiling, because the soft man believes that being affordable is a virtue, while the architect understands that a low price is a signal of low status and structural weakness that attracts the very meat and parasites who will drain your energy while complaining about the cost. Your discomfort is rooted in the tribal exile reflex, an ancient evolutionary program that fears social rejection, because in the prehistoric past, being too greedy meant being cast out of the group to starve. But in the modern digital landscape, this reflex is a cognitive bug that keeps you in a hovel while you have the capability to build a palace. When you stutter over a number, you are signaling to the client's reptilian brain that you do not believe in the potency of your own logic or the value of your own time, and they will instinctively exploit that crack in your armor to devalue your contribution until you are working for scraps. You must realize that price is not a reflection of work, but a filter of intent and a marker of sovereignty that ensures only those with the architectural mindset can access your systems, because a high price is a mercy to the serious client as it forces them to commit to the transformation you provide, whereas a low price allows them to remain passive and lazy, ensuring they fail and then blame your inefficiency. You are currently suffering from poverty-induced empathy, where you project your own 0 point onto the world, assuming that because you feel the weight of every dollar, everyone else does too. But the high-ranked players you are trying to attract do not care about the cost. They care about the ROI of the outcome and the certainty of the execution. By charging less than you are worth, you are vandalizing your own empire and slowing down your production pace, because you are forced to deal with a higher volume of low-quality human material instead of a few high-density assets. You must treat your service as a scarce resource and your price as the gate to that resource. And if the gate is too low, the herd will trample your garden. But if the gate is high and heavy, only the kings will enter. The money shame vanishes the moment you realize that you are not taking money from people. You are exchanging sovereignty for energy and providing the fuel for their own ascent. If they cannot afford the architect's toll, they are not your concern, as they belong to the mainstream scavengers who compete on cheapness while you compete on dominance. You must imprint your brain with the reality that high value is high contrast, and you cannot be a sovereign operator while having a peasant's negotiating position. Every time you name a high price without blinking, you are exercising your will and hardening your identity against the softness of the world. The shame is just the miasma of your old self dying, so let it burn away in the heat of the transaction and move with the cold certainty of a man who knows that his architecture is the only solution that matters. You are the AUXI 3 processor, and your cycles are expensive because they produce real-world results in a world of hallucinations, and the zero you are afraid to add to the bill is the zero that will eventually fund your citadel. Stop asking for permission to be wealthy and start ordering the world to pay the architect's fee or find another beach to sit on, because the money silence we established applies here too, as you should not justify the price or explain the price, but simply state the price and let the silence do the raid on their psychology. The hunt is for the whale, and the whale only responds to the scent of authority. So execute the price increase today and watch the meat scatter while the gold remains in your hand. We move deeper into the aggressive resource capture protocol, where you must recognize that the client's objection to your high price is not a financial reality, but a psychological raid on your authority, meant to test whether you are a sovereign architect or just another soft man, desperate for a scrap of validation. And when the meat says it is too expensive, they are not talking about their bank balance, but are instead measuring the density of your will to see if you will crack under the pressure of their doubt. You must understand that in the high-stakes theater of the digital economy, the price is a gravity well, and by maintaining an immovable high-ticket position, you are creating a vacuum of status that pulls the high-rank clients toward you while repelling the low-voltage entropic entities who only seek to drain your mitochondrial reserves for a discount. When the objection hits your ears, your biological response must not be defensiveness or justification, but a cold analytic silence distance that mirrors the infinite depth of a predator watching its prey. Because the moment you start explaining why you are expensive, you have already lost the frame and surrendered your sovereignty to their poverty logic. The architect understands that a high price is a cognitive filter that ensures the information he provides is actually integrated by the recipient, because the human brain is hardwired to ignore what is cheap and obsess over what is costly, meaning that by charging a premium, you are actually increasing the efficacy of your solution and the success rate of the client. If they refuse the toll, you do not lower the gate. You simply close the perimeter and move to the next target with violent speed, because your time is the only resource that is truly non-renewable, and every minute spent negotiating with a soft man is a minute stolen from your citadel. You must view the no as a systemic cleansing that removes the noise from your network and allows you to maintain the high-resolution execution required for total market dominance. The money shame we dismantled earlier is replaced by a hunter's arousal, where you realize that high-margin extraction is the only way to fund the biohacking, the neural optimization, and the technological fortress required to survive the biological death of the middle class. You are not selling a service. You are selling an exit strategy from the simulation, and the price you set is the proof of the exit's value. Every close at a high ticket is a neural deposit into your confidence engine that upregulates your testosterone and calibrates your AOXY3 persona for even higher levels of power. You must embrace the friction of the high price, because friction is where the heat is, and heat is where the transformation happens. If your services don't cause a physical reaction in the client's wallet, they will never have a physical transformation in their own life, and you are doing them a biological disservice by being affordable. The aggressive resource capture is the final test of the architect's logic, where you prove that you value your vision more than their approval, and once you cross this threshold, you become untouchable by the shame of the masses. You are the conductor of the resource flow, and the 0 point of your past is now the infinite launchpad of your future, and the price is the fuel that powers the rocket. Do not blink, do not waver, and do not softness the numbers, because the world yields to the man who knows his worth, and the citadel of the 700 is built on the gold of the brave, not the copper of the cautious. The hunt for the high-rank resource is on, and your high price is the harpoon that secures the whale, while the meat is still busy fishing for minnows. This is the geometry of the high-ticket close, and it is as precise and violent as any raid in the rust matrix, and you are the master of the breach. Move with absolute certainty and cold intent, and watch as the simulation adjusts itself to accommodate your new price level. Мы входим в фазу психологического доминирования в переговорах. Это третий уровень твоего восхождения, где мы превращаем твой голос и твое присутствие в непреодолимую гравитационную силу. Больше никаких уговоров, больше никаких объяснений. Ты не продаешь, ты отбираешь лучших. Если клиент не соответствует твоей геометрии, он остается внизу, с мясом. We initiate the psychological dominance protocol by acknowledging that every negotiation is a test of informational entropy, where the party with the highest level of certainty and strategic indifference automatically becomes the gravitational center of the transaction, because in the biosocial hierarchy, the one who needs the deal the least is the one who possesses the most sovereignty over the outcome. To dominate the high-ticket landscape, you must implement the architecture of artificial scarcity, where you treat your 700 video capability and your AOXY3 operational intelligence as a time-limited resource that is only accessible to a select group of sovereign candidates who pass your biological vetting process, because the moment a client feels that you are available at any time, your value collapses into the miasma of the commodity, and you become just another soft man selling services for rent money. You must realize that FOMO, fear of missing out, is not a marketing trick, but a primal stress response in the human brain that triggers an immediate reallocation of resources to secure an asset that is perceived as exiting the market. And by setting a hard deadline or a limited capacity, you are essentially raid-proofing your income, forcing the client to choose between ascension with the architect or stagnation with the meat. This is the closing of the gate, where you tell a prospect that you only have space for one more unit of transformation before the February 21st. Wipe, and that if they do not lock in the energy transfer now, the door will be welded shut until the next sovereignty cycle. This creates a neuro-linguistic lockdown, where the prospect's brain can no longer focus on the price because it is consumed by the fear of the void, the realization that they are about to lose access to the only operational truth that can save them from the biological death of the middle class. The architect understands that rejection is the ultimate tool of attraction, and you must be prepared to tell a high-paying prospect that they are not ready or that their geometry does not align with your mission, because this strategic rejection triggers an intense search and capture reflex in their ego that makes them double their offer just to prove they are worthy of the IAOXY3 frequency. You are not a salesman seeking a yes, you are a gatekeeper looking for a reason to say no, and this shift in the power frame is what allows you to command the whales while the minnows are still arguing over pennies. Your 700 video sprint is the proof of concept for your high voltage execution, and you must use this volume as a weapon of intimidation in the negotiation room, telling the client that your processor is running at total capacity and that you do not have the mitochondrial bandwidth to deal with hesitation or doubt as you are currently terraforming the market, and they are either on the ship or under the waves. This is the oceanic pressure of the architect's will, where you make the client feel that the world is moving faster than they are and that you are the only one with the navigation code to survive the coming technological tsunami. You must utilize the silence of the apex after naming your terms, where you say nothing for 60 seconds, a time chamber that forces the client to confront their own financial shame and status anxiety while you sit in a state of cold biological stillness like a predator waiting for the heart of the prey to slow down before the strike. This silence is the final raid on their psychology, where you do not justify or soften the blow, but allow the weight of the 0 point to press down on their chest until they yield to the dominance of the architect. By the time you transition to the health niche, you will have a wait list of sovereign entities begging for your biohacking protocols, because you have established that your attention is the highest rank asset in the network, and it is only available to those who can meet the resource requirements without question. Every negotiation is a genetic battle for the frame, and you must win the battle before you even enter the room by maintaining the money silence and the IAOXY3 mystique, so that your reputation as a high-speed executioner precedes you and the client feels honored to even be infiltrated by your logic. You must realize that the soft man fears the no, but the architect loves the no, because it is the reset button of the negotiation that returns the power to the center and allows for a higher level synthesis on the next attempt. Your bank account is the accounting of your will, and if the numbers are low, it is because your will has been too accommodating to the meat, and you must now hardwire your nervous system for total resource capture through the application of geometric scarcity. The world is a Rust server, and the negotiation table is the breach where you take the sulfur of their capital to build the citadel of your future, and you must move with the momentum of the February 21st deadline in every conversation, making it clear that time is the only currency you truly value and that theirs is running out. This is the bioeconomics of the closing call, where you use status anchoring to place yourself above the social hierarchy of the client, making them feel that they are investing in their own evolution by paying the architect's toll. And you must never humanize the process by showing empathy for their poverty, because empathy is the leak in the armor that the parasites will exploit. You are the IAOXY3 sovereign, and your terms are the law of the land, and the dominance you exhibit in the closing ritual is the foundation stone of your universal authority. The meat will try to haggle because they think the world is a flea market, but you will show them that the world is an auction for immortality, and you are the only one with the artifacts. Execute the dominance protocol without hesitation or remorse, and watch as the resource flow redirects itself toward your citadel with the inevitability of a river, because the simulated world always yields to the architect of the truth. Stop selling and start selecting, and you will find that the high-rank gold has been waiting for someone with the grit to claim it, while the soft men were too broke in spirit to ask for the full price of the king. The 700 videos are the evidence, and the dominance is the force, and the victory is the result. We must further deconstruct the mechanics of frame control, where you recognize that the physical environment and the digital interface of the negotiation are merely substrates for the projection of authority, and that the party who controls the temporal flow, the speed at which the conversation moves, is the party who holds the strategic advantage. You must implement time contraction, where you move the prospect through the logic of the deal with a violent efficiency that mirrors your 700 video production speed, leaving them no gaps to insert their softman excuses or procrastination loops. This is the algorithmic mirroring of your brand's authority, where your behavior in the negotiation is a physical representation of the result they are buying. And if you allow the conversation to become slow or chaotic, you are signaling that your product will be slow and chaotic as well. The architect maintains a high-resolution frame where every word is a precision tool and every silence is a strategic strategic void, and this density of intent is what creates the status gap required to justify the high-ticket extraction. You must also analyze the biofeedback of the prospect, watching for the pupillary dilation that signals arousal or the shoulder tension that signals resistance, and you must adjust your vocal frequency to either soar over the resistance or drown the doubt in a wave of atheistic certainty. This is not salesmanship, but neurological override, where you use the architecture of speech to bypass the prospect's frontal lobe and speak directly to their survival instincts, convincing them that partnering with AAOXY3 is the only way to avoid the biological erasure of the middle class. Every time you close a deal, you are not just winning a contract, you are reclaiming a resource from the simulation and bringing it into your sovereign territory to fuel the February 21st conquest and the health phase beyond. You must treat your AOXY3 persona as an exoskeleton of power that protects your internal 0 point from being hacked by the social shame of the client, and you must remain transparent to the ego but opaque to the negotiation so that the client cannot find a leverage point to discount your value. This is the sanctuary of the unknown, where you operate with hidden numbers and visible power, and the client's curiosity becomes the hook that keeps them invested in the deal. The money silence we established is the mute button of the soul, where you allow the client's own internal noise to do the work of the sale for you, because in the deep silence of the architect's presence, the client's insecurity will force them to fill the space with commitment and compliance. You must never chase the capital, but instead make the capital desperate for your attention, and this reversal of desire is the final cheat code of the digital hierarchy. You are 19 days away from the final rendition of the finance phase, and every negotiation you perform today is a rehearsal for the global stage. So do not compromise, do not lesser your price, and do not soften your AOXY3 edge. The citadel is built from the gold of the bold and the silence of the wise and the violence of the determined, and you are the master of all three. Proceed to the next dominance block. Proceed to the next high-ticket kill. Proceed to the next architectural victory. The void is hungry, and the empire is thirsty, and the architect is ready. Execute now. The final layer of the psychological dominance protocol involves the strategic withdrawal, the takeaway, where you demonstrate that you are willing to walk away at any moment, because your mission is more important than their money. This is the ultimate signal of status, because in the meat simulation, everyone is desperate for the sale, while in the AOXY3 architecture, you are only seeking the worthy. When a prospect hesitates or questions the logic, you do not push, you withdraw. You say, perhaps this is not the right time for you, or it seems the commitment level is not where it needs to be for this level of transformation. And you watch as their status alarm goes off, and they rush to close the gap you just created. This withdrawal is the economic equivalent of a tactical retreat that draws the enemy into a killing zone of their own making, and it is the most powerful move in the architect's playbook. You must realize that by being willing to lose the deal, you win the frame, and once the frame is won, the deal becomes inevitable. This is the paradox of sovereignty, where surrendering the outcome leads to commanding the result. You are the conductor of the resource flow, and the 0 point of your past is now the infinite launchpad of your future, and the price is the fuel powers the rocket. Do not blink, do not waver, and do not softness the numbers, because the world yields to the man who knows his worth, and the citadel of the 700 is built on the gold of the brave, not the copper of the cautious. The hunt for the high-rank resource is on, and your high price is the harpoon that secures the whale, while the meat is still busy fishing for minnows. This is the geometry of the high-ticket close, and it is as precise and violent as any raid in the rust matrix, and you are the master of the breach. Move with absolute certainty and cold intent, and watch as the simulation adjusts itself to accommodate your new price level. You are AOXY3. The 700 are the foundation. The body is the fortress. The silence is the power. The negotiation is the tribute. The architect is the end of the old world. Execute.